room. You come to find the road to wealth. Daniel swallowed hard. Yes, Barber. I am ready. Without a word, Chief Benson untied his flowing agbada and slowly rolled up his right trouser leg. Daniel's eyes widened. On the man's calf was a wound the size of a man's fist, deep, dark, and alive. White worms crawled in and out as if the flesh itself were a nest. Daniel stepped back in shock, but Chief Benson only smiled. "This is my bank," he said calmly. "The more these worms grow, the more money flows to me. But they must be fed to the living. When people eat food that carries them, wealth follows me like a shadow." Barber's eyes stayed fixed on Daniel. "If you want riches that never dry, you must accept a wound like this. Every night you will gather the creatures it breeds. You will feed them to food for others to eat." Daniel's heart hammered, but greed drowned every warning. "I accept," he said quickly. "Do it for me tonight." Barber nodded once. He took an object from a clay pot and began to chant words Daniel had never heard before. The room filled with the smell of strange smoke. Then, with one swift motion, the object cut deep into Daniel's right leg. He gasped as hot pain shot upward, followed by a crawling sensation, as if something alive had entered the flesh. Chief Benson watched silently, a faint smile on his face. When the chanting stopped, Barber spoke again. "From tonight, you will carry your own source of wealth. Gather what the wound gives you, feed it to living food. Do not fail, or the blessing will turn to hunger and eat you first." Daniel sat trembling, sweat running down his back. Chief Benson placed a heavy hand on his shoulder. "Leave Lagos. Find a quiet place where no one knows you. Begin a business where people must eat every day. If you obey the instruction, you will never lack." Before dawn, Daniel left Lagos. Chief Benson's words sat heavy in his mind. He traveled until he reached Oba village, a lively market town where strangers could start fresh without questions. There he rented a small house with a wide backyard and soon built a large chicken pen of bamboo and wire right inside his compound. People noticed the steady work of the newcomer. Daniel bought chicks and built wooden feeding troughs. Every morning he swept the pen and fetched clean water. The chickens grew fast and healthy, and neighbors praised his effort. No one imagined the true secret of their growth. At night, when the village slept, Daniel's real business began. Behind his locked door, he untied the thick cloth on his right leg. The sore inside was deep and wet. Pain pulsed through it like a second heartbeat, but he bore it in silence. With calm hands, he held a clean calabash beneath the wound and waited. The harvest, whatever it was, gathered slowly, hidden from the world. Barber's voice from that dark hut never left his ears. Every night, gather what the wound gives, feed it to living food. Do not fail, and your riches will not dry. When the calabash was ready, he poured the strange contents into their feed and watched until they settled again. Only then would he rewrap the wound and stretch on his raffia mat, whispering his nightly comfort, "Small pain for big money. Tomorrow the queue will be long." In the mornings, the yard was a cheerful sight. The chickens were fat and lively, pecking noisily at grain. Neighbors who passed by greeted him warmly. "Daniel, your birds grow as if they eat gold," one man joked. Daniel laughed and said, "Good care makes strong chickens." When the birds reached the perfect size, he slaughtered and roasted them on his wide iron grill at the market. Soon word spread far beyond Oba. Travelers planned their journeys so they could eat Daniel's soft, juicy chicken. People who once swore never to buy cooked meat began to queue at his stall. Some said they dreamt of the taste and woke craving it. Money filled his bag faster than he could count. Seasons passed. The chicken business flourished like a river in rainy season. Yet, every night the secret work continued. The wound throbbed harder, the smell grew sharper. Sometimes when he uncovered it, he saw the edges darkening. Almost black, still he obeyed Barber's instruction. The money was too sweet, the customers too many, and his heart too deep in greed to stop. When Harmattan winds came dry and cold, Daniel noticed something new. The pain now stretched beyond the sore, climbing up his calf and tugging at his thigh. He limped more each day. But with every market morning came more customers and more coins, and he forced himself to stand before the fire. The villagers only saw success. "Daniel is blessed," they said. "His chicken will never finish." But inside his compound, behind locked doors, The bargain he made with Baba was tightening its hold. The saw that had fed his wealth was quietly preparing to collect its final debt. One day, the harmattan morning was cold and dusty, yet Daniel lay sweating on his bed. The pain in his right leg had become a living fire. It no longer waited for night, it burned through every hour. Each time he tried to rise, a sharp stab shot up his thigh and across his waist. Even the short walk from his room to the chicken pen in the backyard felt impossible. 4 days his grill at the market had stayed cold. Neighbors came to the gate and called his name. "Daniel, are you there? Do you need medicine?" But he only answered weakly, "I am fine. I need rest." The smell that floated from his compound told another story. It was thick and sour, stronger than smoke or pepper, and it clung to the evening breeze until people covered their noses. Inside, Daniel's world shrank to the 4 mud walls of his room. He could hear the chickens clucking restlessly in the yard, waiting for their midnight feeding, but he could no longer reach them. The wound pulsed like a drum under his wrapper, each beat a command his body could not obey. When he dared to loosen the cloth for relief, a heavy stench rushed out, sharp enough to sting his eyes. The saw had spread upward, its edges black and hard like burnt wood. The chickens went hungry. The market went without his famous chicken, and the pain only deepened. One stormy night, clouds rolled across the moon and thunder groaned like an old drum. Daniel lay awake, eyes fixed on the dark ceiling. Suddenly a tearing pain ripped through his leg and shot across his body. He cried out, but the wind outside swallowed the sound. The wound burst open with a wet crack, and something began to move, fast and many. In the dim lantern light, he saw white shapes pushing through the wound. First a few, then hundreds, then so many that the cloth around his leg lifted and fell like a breathing thing. They spilled onto the mat with a sound like dry leaves and spread across the floor in waves. Daniel tried to rise, but his body no longer obeyed. He felt the movement inside him under the skin of his belly, along his arms, even behind his eyes. The pain turned to a deep, cold numbness as thousands of worms crawled out, covering his legs, his chest, his face. He opened his mouth to scream, and more poured out, thick, white, and endless. The room filled with their wet rustle, drowning every other sound. The chickens in the backyard fell silent as if listening. By dawn, Ober village woke to an eerie quiet. When neighbors finally pushed open Daniel's door, they stepped back in horror. The air smelled of decay and smoke long gone cold. No one touched the grill again. The chicken yard was left to weeds and silence. Children were warned not to go near the compound, and when elders told the story by firelight, they ended with the same heavy words: "Greed does not fill a man, it finishes him. What you feed for wealth will one day feed on you." Daniel, once the pride of the market, became only a caution in village memory. Moral of the story: greed is a fire that never satisfies. Daniel thought he had found a simple way to riches, but every coin he earned carried a hidden cost. He fed his chickens from a secret wound to make others crave his food, yet the same wound finally consumed him. Whatever evil you feed for profit will one day feed on you. Wealth gained through hidden darkness is never a blessing, it is a debt waiting to be collected. The elders of Ober village now say, greed may give a man a full pocket for a time, but in the end it empties his life. Thank you for watching.